I want to ask white people on here, how do you guys have the
Absolutely. I talk to my kids about race and differences, and I do it in lots of different ways. From very young ages and very young ages, we always talked about not commenting on other people's bodies. It's like a big rule in my house. We don't comment on other people's bodies. But how I talked about it, exactly like you said, is we all comes in different shapes and sizes. We're all different and we have different traits. And so, like for my kids, when they were really little, it was dad has red hair, mom has brown hair. Like it's just different. Like it's not better, not worse. It's just different. It's the same thing that people have different skin tones. Um, Not better, not worse, just different. And in the context of like, I mean, like toddlers. I was explaining this to my toddlers, right? So when I say not better or worse, just saying we're all people and we're all humans and we all share core humanity of like love and loss and joy and grief and struggle and hardship and successes and celebrations and pain and anger and hurt and like we all experience those things. And that we look differently and there's no inherent value in any of those traits. And for me, it was skin color, hair color, height, weight, body shape. All of those things are differences, but they have no moral value. There's no moral value in the differences. So I've taught my kids that from like toddler age, or even just people with, limb differences or mobility differences and different disabilities or those kinds of things, right? That they are just differences, but there is no moral value. It's just different. But I will also say the other thing I always talk with my kids about, another way I handle this too, is anytime I hear it or I catch any kind of bullshit, I just point it out. So, like when my daughter comes home and talks about things that they've learned in history class, we have real conversations about what that was like. So, like they were doing a section on like Native Americans and they glossed over really like the Trail of Tears. And so we had like an in-depth conversation about like what that would feel like to experience being forcibly moved, walking all of those miles, watching like your family and friends and loved ones die on the way with no funeral, with no mourning, with no, and just being dropped in a completely new place and like what that would actually be like. So it's not like a paragraph. Another thing I do, and this kind of like, but this is what I mean, like when I do it all the time, is we were watching, my daughter loves cooking shows. She's 14. So like our conversations are really different now than like when they were 3. But but we were watching this cooking show, and the lady who was Southern white lady was making hoe cakes, and she was talking about how she said, well, when people back in the day were working, they would heat up their hoe or their shovel over the fire, and then they would grill these corn cakes on them, and then that's where they got the name hoe cakes. And so I paused the show and I looked at her and I said, slaves. They came from slaves because that's how they forced slaves to eat in the field when they were working, because they had no other options for food because they weren't going to feed them. So, like, let's be realistic about what that white Southern lady was talking about, because she's talking about like normal everyday people out working in their garden. No, No, that's not the context of which hoe cakes were formed. So let's talk about how they were really where hoe cakes really come from, and the realities of the people who invented that food to survive and are now at a cooking competition to earn her thousands of dollars while she ignores the reality of the origin of the food. So, okay, so like those are the conversations I have with my kids on a very regular basis. I can't say I'm a normal as a white woman that has those kinds of conversations with her kids. But yeah, I have them all of the time. And part of that's because I'm autistic and I hate all of these societal rules and I think they're all bullshit and I refuse to teach them to my kids. I refuse to hold my kids to standards that are not my own and that are all just bases for control. Right, the ignorance is to control us. So anyway, they're all just lies that keep us small, and so I refuse to do that to my children. So anyway, we talk about it a lot.